Well, hello. I'm so glad you're joining me. We're going to talk about academic writing. I want to help you prepare some amazing lesson plans to assure that you are getting all of the core standard writing in place. Because here's the thing, I already know you want a program that's going to be simple, fun, predictable, and productive all at the same time preparing your child for future success. It's not too much to ask, is it? Well, here's the thing. I want to guide you in that process and make your job a little easier, help you end the day knowing that I did something really good. And preparing lessons is a really good feeling, in my opinion. So let's jump in and get started. Hopefully, you already did grab your handout. You should already have this. It's a form that you can just print out and then jot down your 3 writing lessons as we go along. If you get some ideas, you might want to just throw them in there, or just write on some note paper and then fill it out afterwards. But you will want this at some point to complete your lesson plan. Now, I want to actually start with the end in mind. And this is important. I teach this to students when we do any new writing assignment. What is the purpose? What is the goal? What is our objective? It's really important to think about that first. So here's the thing. I want you to know that at the end of this training, there are 4 things we're going to have focused on. Number 1, familiarizing you with the standards. It's really important that you understand what is asked of students that are in elementary and middle school. These actually go beyond those grades into high school, into college, even into career, but it starts in those elementary and middle school years. So I'm going to go over those with you. I'm also going to teach you how to systemize the writing process. I have a system that's been working for years and years, and it makes each assignment a little bit smaller, more bite-sized, and that always leads to more success, less tears, less frustration, and that's always a win. The third thing I want to talk about is how to pace yourself. I will show you how I pace my students, and then take it or leave it. Speed it up, slow it down. That is totally up to you. Lastly, and this is a tough one to teach, but I'm going to encourage you to remain positive and encourage your child along the way. Here's what I like students to know. Learning how to write well is not a sprint. We're not just trying to get to the finish line as fast as we can. This is a marathon. We're going to slow ourselves down. We're going to pace our way there. And inevitably, we're going to make it to the finish line. And we'll feel a whole lot better for it. There is a section on this handout, if you didn't already notice, called Notes and Ideas. So if you're not a big note taker, that may be enough space. Of course, you can always flip the paper over for more notes and ideas, but I always like to have a little bit of space to jot any thoughts down. So make sure I pointed that out to you. Are you ready to get started? Let's jump in. Before we even begin, though, I do want to make sure you know who I am. My name is Melissa Webb. I'm a credentialed teacher. I've been a teacher for over 30 years now. I've done classroom teaching. I've supported homeschooling families. We homeschooled 2 of our 3 boys. And it was during my years as a facilitator for a charter school supporting homeschooling families, as I was helping everybody search for the best curriculum for writing. It didn't exist, not for what a homeschool family needs. A homeschool family needs a little more guidance and practical solutions to what a homeschooling environment looks like with multiple children. So many textbooks that are out there teach teachers in a class of all the same graded children, say a 3rd grade class, easier in some ways. You may have a 3rd grader, a 5th grader, a 7th grader at home. How do we work this when we have multiple grades? So I figured out a few solutions. I put it out there and I haven't stopped yet. So I'm here to share it with you, and I'm so glad that you found me. So the first style of writing that I want you to be familiar with, and I want you to practice every semester at least one time, I want you to write one academic essay in the persuasive style of writing. Now, for younger children, it's referred to as an opinion essay. Once you hit middle school, they'll refer to it as an argumentative essay. They're similar, a little bit different. I won't get into the nitty gritty in this training. I have other opportunities for you to learn with me, but Persuasive has some key concepts and connections I want you to make with your young writer. Number one, persuasive writing is just that, being persuasive, opinionated. Sometimes students want to be wishy-washy, and you cannot be wishy-washy in a persuasive practice. This is the kind of paper that's very factual, not emotional. It needs to have research to back it up. It can't just be our own thoughts. It needs to be structured. And by structured, I mean we need an introduction, we need body paragraphs, we need a conclusion, we need a thesis, we need topic sentences, hooks, transitional sentence, that kind of structure. A persuasive also at the end often has a CTA, which is a call to action. Now that you've convinced me as your reader to agree with you, what do I do? These are key connections that when you practice your persuasive style of writing this semester, you want to make sure you can check all those things off. Now you'll see that there's a section in your notes where you can jot down a topic, and you'll see how I've broken this into those bite-sized chunks like I mentioned. If you need some ideas for persuasive writing, well, they should have been emailed to you. If you didn't get this handout, let me know. Of course, you can just jot things down as well. But you can pick any topic. I have a whole list over there for you, but don't be limited to that. See what interest your child has. Does your child feel strongly about anything? Is your child a debater? Let's start with this one because most students love to be opinionated. It's really fun for them to be able to have a say and have people listen, and it's empowering. So this is an important one to practice. So you'll see that I've broken it into 4 parts: a presentation week, a production week, a polishing week, and a publishing week. I highly recommend you do this in weeks. As I mentioned, I take an entire month to teach one academic essay. I've done the let's get an essay done every week. The more we write, the better we'll be. No, you know what we're going to do? Burn out. That's exactly what happens. I've seen it firsthand. Kids burn out. And all of a sudden, students that even liked writing now are like, oh my gosh, not another essay. Break this down into 4 parts. In the first week, and you can put your dates of when you're going to do your presentation week. In presentation week, you're going to present the topic. You're going to present some research. You're going to present an outline that the students can follow. How are you going to teach them to take notes that week? Those are all the things that I do in my courses, and we always do that during presentation week. Then the next week, production week, and again, look at your calendar. If you need to take a break in between these 2 weeks, you get to do that. Isn't that nice, that flexibility? In production week, students are going to finish up the outlines that they worked on, and they're going to produce in the production week their product, being their rough draft. And I like to give them the whole week to do that, whether they just take one day and work on their introduction paragraph, another day they can work on a body paragraph, another day they can work on their conclusion. It's really nice to give a whole week for that, a little bit of writing each day. I recommend 30 to 40 minutes spent on writing a day. But some people like to do it every other day, but they work on it for an hour every other day. You should be looking for writing 2 to 3 hours a week. So however you want to break that up, that's a good goal to set. In polishing week, so again, lay your dates out here on your form so that you hold yourself accountable. When are you going to do polishing week? That's the week that you're going to polish and shine the rough draft. So this is where we revise and we edit. Those are 2 different things. I have tools for both of these things, but it's really important that we start to empower our children to know how to edit, to know how to revise. I have checklists and the 4-color edit sheet and fun ways so that kids can actually engage in always working to make their writing better. Because I don't know about you, my boys were like, I already wrote it once. Why do you want me to write it again? Like, why do I have to go back? Isn't it good enough? And this is what I always say to students. Writing is a form of art. That's why it's called language arts. And art can always be made better. A little splash of color here, a little more shading over here. It's an art, so we can always make our writing better. Even well-known famous authors edit their work multiple times. All right, so publishing week is an important week, and that's the final week. This is where we make sure that we don't just take the final essay and stick it in a file or stick it in a binder or just put a sticker or a star at the top and say, you did a great job. Go public with it. Get creative here. It could be that, hey, you do FaceTime with grandma and your child gets to read the essay that he wrote. Or maybe you do a small co-op and everybody gets to practice some public speaking and they get up there and they each read their essay or a portion of their essay. You don't have to read the whole essay, just read maybe a portion. There's so many ways that you can publish work, but students who don't get a chance to be heard verbally as well as in written context, they don't see the power behind writing. So be sure to let them share their writing. This is really important. Okay, let's jump into the other style of writing that I want you to practice once every semester. I want you to do some form of expository writing. And I'm going to bet this is one you've already done. This is the research paper. And this is a really important style of writing. I'd say it's practiced the most out of all three styles of writing. And it does have a place, but don't forget, we need to be persuasive and we also need to be informative, which is what an expository piece is. So I have some more topic ideas for you, but here are the key concepts and connections I want you to make with your young writer. In any kind of exposition, whether it's explanatory or informative, the writer must remain neutral. Now, that may sound like an easy thing. Well, sure, you're just not going to be opinion about it. You're just going to summarize something you learned. Yes, that is correct. But students have a tendency to get excited about what they write about. And let's say they're writing about panda bears. Next thing you know, they're using words like, isn't this animal amazing and phenomenal? Those are all opinions. And it's the number one ding that students get on their writing when it comes to research papers. They put their opinions in there. So they have to remain neutral in their tone, not opinionated. They don't have any feeling about it. No, they are just researching and then paraphrasing. Here's the thing. A lot of students, the second mistake they'll make is they do great research. I mean, they're awesome at their research, but their paper sounds like all their research. And they're not paraphrasing enough. They're not putting in their own connections. They're not explaining why they think something might be this certain way. And that is a higher level skill. It's something we work on in our courses all the time. It's also important that if it is something that is chronological, that it stays in chronological order. The structure, again, in an expository essay is similar to persuasive type writing. You need an introduction. Your introductory paragraph needs a hook, it needs a thesis. You need body paragraphs, each one summarizing a different, maybe chronological point. You need to wrap up with a strong conclusion where you're going to restate that thesis as well. Okay, so there are some expository ideas. Notice, I'd love for you to fill out this form, put your topic out there, decide what you're going to write about. You're going to collect information. You know, one of the things that works so well with writing across curriculum is rather than going and finding news articles, which are great if you've not been using Newsella, Time for Kids magazine, Discovery Education. There's some great resources out there where your child can gain the information to then write about. But do you know what else works great? Your textbooks. If you have a science textbook, if you have a history textbook, use those. In presentation week, that's where a lot of the learning goes on. You're going to say, hey, we're going to be studying the Civil War, so you're going to be writing an expository essay on the Civil War. So that is just such a smart way to tie in your writing with your other curriculum, making it thematic. When you do that, That presentation week is when you introduce that. You start teaching your child different note-taking methods. Every month I like to teach my students a different way of taking notes, because there's not just one way. There's so many ways to take notes. You need to find the way that you really like. So you teach a different way of taking notes, and then you turn those notes into an outline, just like the presentation week in the previous one. It's the same concepts. I take a whole week to go over all of that with my students. Again, giving yourself about 2 to 3 hours a week, specifically tied into writing. But as I just mentioned, you could also be double dipping and getting some extra science learning going on or history learning going on all at the same time. Production week, you're going to take the outline, turn it into the rough draft. Polishing week, the rough draft gets polished and shined with revision, with editing. Same thing. Be sure to let your child proudly share their work. Okay. Finally is narrative writing. Oh, it's one of the things students love to do the most. Same idea. You're going to practice it at least once a semester. And these are your key concepts and connections that I would want you to be sure to cover when you spend a month or 3 weeks or 5 weeks. Remember, I do a month per each one. It works beautifully within a semester. It gives us a few little breaks if we have to take a week off here or there with our schedules. But you can decide, is the story that you're going to write on any particular month going to be a real nonfiction, tell us a story that really happened to you? Or is it going to be imagined, a fictional story? Both are fun. What I like to do is one semester I'll do a fictional, and the second semester I will do either a real or a realistic fiction. You want to make sure, no matter what, any story that your child writes, it has a storyline, and that storyline must include a problem. So this is the story arc, all of those pieces. Don't forget dialogue. A lot of students will write an entire story and never have dialogue, but dialogue is key to connecting with your reader, as is sensory description. What can your reader see, taste, smell, touch, feel? You want all of that in there, and figurative language too. Similes and metaphors, hyperboles and personification, all the fun things. Figurative language is one of the things students love to add to their stories. They have a lot of fun with that, so make sure that you squeeze that in too. Now, there you go. Those are the 3 standards-based. I hope you're feeling smarter, right? I hope you're like, wow, this is awesome. Thank you for the guidance. I know that we need to spend every semester writing 3 strong academic essays. One will be persuasive, and go in any order you like. The second will be an expository, and the third will be a narrative. Spend a month putting together each one. Give yourselves breaks in between. You're going to feel so accomplished. You're going to feel at the end of the day that, wow, I am really doing a great job for my child's future success. Because I think we all want the same thing. We all want our students, our children, to grow up and be adults that are competent, that can communicate with ease, that enjoy being able to express themselves. All of that comes from the practice and the buildup and the feedback that encourages them. And that part's really important. So be sure to stay positive and be an encourager. If you need a positive encourager, that's where I come in. If everything that I just shared with you actually overwhelmed you, I wouldn't be surprised, just because it's a lot. It's a lot that I just jam-packed into this short training. So if you're actually wanting me to teach it for you, I can do that. I can absolutely do that. I offer 3 different writing programs. We have Wow Writers Live, which you can come over to my website and you can learn more about that. It is a semester-long commitment. There are deadlines and due dates and very specific layouts. But it is really fun. And the students do a live showcase at the end of every month, and everybody shares a portion of their writing. It's a really fun community of kids all across the nation. There's also Wow Writers Workshop. That is a slower paced program. It's actually consisting of all the other courses I've ever taught live, but now they're just the recordings. So you can watch them whenever it fits for you. There are no deadlines. There are no due dates. It's meant to just help you stay the course, get all the writing done, and give you a lot of options. So again, if you want to go in the order you want to go, that may be the perfect place. If your child wants to write narrative first, there are 18 courses in there, and I don't know, 6 of them are narratives. So it gives you lots of options. Lastly, the simplest and maybe the smartest place to start is Wow Essay Essentials. Because if I just shared with you about the introductory paragraph and the body paragraphs and the conclusion, and right there you felt like, I'm not sure we even know how to do that, Essay Essentials is the perfect place to start. I use a great analogy of building a hamburger is like building an essay. So it's a fun course that you can do quickly or pace yourself over time. That may be the perfect foundational place to start if you really want to understand academic essay structure. No matter what, I'm just glad we got to spend some time together today, and I want you to know that I'm here to encourage you. So if you need any help, be sure to reach out, and I will be happy to come along and continue to be your guide. Right on.